It's a special day. Today is 6 months to the day since I renounced my plant-munching past in favor of eating all the meat I could get my hands on. This is what happened. And I achieved this monstrous transformation, eating virtually nothing but beef for the last 6 months. And I have never been so satisfied in my entire life. Okay, but fancy videos aside, let's get to it, all right? I've been eating a carnivore diet for 6 months now, and it's entirely revolutionized my life. Well, you saw the video. I went from a very bad state to feeling better than I have in years. And in this video, I want to talk about it. I want to cover all the different nuances, talk about some of the different pros and cons I've experienced, share some of the context of how I maneuvered this diet for 6 months, talk about the improvements I've noticed physically, mentally, spiritually. I'm going to share my blood work. I have some, black and white facts of the physiological changes that have occurred in my body, as well as I think just answer some of the frequently asked questions that I get. So that's what you're going to get in this video. And I want to preface that I'm going to try and be as objective as possible, in the sense that, when I was about a month in, I was just so stoked. I was finally feeling some vitality in my body for the first time ever. And I put out a video, got a lot of views, but I almost feel like I was coming across in it like as if I was trying to sell it to you, like, you need to do this. And while, as you can probably guess, I am very in favor, I think this is a biologically appropriate diet for humans. Do I think you're gonna go to hell if you eat a vegetable? Absolutely not. Do I believe that humans are hypercarnivores and that if we get most of our calories from meat-based sources, we will be healthiest? Yes, I do believe it. However, you're welcome to disagree, but nonetheless, this is my experience. So, where to start? I think it makes sense to start at the beginning and to provide you guys with a little bit of context as to what brought me to that emaciated figure that you guys saw at the start of this video. So I've recorded videos about the whole degeneration of my body and what led me to that rock bottom. I'll link something above. But the brief version is this. For the better part of the last decade, I was really unwell. I suffered with really bad gut inflammation disease. I basically had diarrhea. I had diarrhea every day for about 6 years. Then when my whole body collapsed, I tried plant-based styles of eating to hopefully give my body, I thought that would heal me. It didn't. It just malnourished me further. And in that, I did like a raw till 4 for a couple years with a few fully raw months, like just eating papayas and bananas. And then I tried a fully raw vegan for about 6 months. None of this stuff worked. These things only work in the way that they remove problematic foods from your diet. I'm gonna make a video in the near future about why I believe veganism failed me so bad, because some people do seem to do all right on it. People are always like, no matter how you do a vegan diet, people go, oh, you didn't do it right. So I'm gonna address that in a future video. But for now, let's just say I was in a bad place 6 months ago. Just before I started this carnivore diet, the one thing I did that was incredible, which also led me to be so skinny, was I did a 22-day water fast. And that was by far the best thing I've ever done for my health. It's incredible, the chance for your body to just rest, cell autophagy, the release of stem cells. You just literally lay there and your body does what it needs to do to heal. But this video is not about water fasting, but that is where I was. I had been malnourished for nearly a decade. A lot of it from GI issues, and then following that plus plant-based malnutrition, and then a water fast, and then I'm finally starting eating a nutrient-dense diet. And that's kind of how I came into this. So when I started, I just ate everything. A lot of beef, butter, eggs, some fish, some oysters. I know it's not really carnivore, but I even drank a bit of milk for the first few weeks. No, first like 2 weeks. But then very quickly, it was just my preference. I just started eating beef. I literally just ate beef all day, every day. And my diet, in terms of how much I ate, changed so much in the course of that time. In the first few months, I was eating upwards of 4,000 or 5,000 calories every day. I would sit down and eat 3-4 pounds of ground beef. And then with, some of it cooked with lard. And then I would literally go to the fridge and eat spoonfuls of lard. My body wanted fat, animal fat, so much. I'd been depriving myself of these nutrients I was vegan for probably around 4 or 5 years, combined with poor digestion. I was not absorbing any nutrition. And so, I went nuts for the first few months. And then it kind of died down. And now I'm 6 months in, and I probably only eat less than 2 pounds of beef every day. And I eat, initially my macros were around like 90-10, even 95-5, given like all the butter and lard I would eat. Everything was coming from fat. And now it's much lower. It's like 70-30. I feel like my body's finally found like a bit of an equilibrium. It's finally gotten back to that natural threshold. Okay, we're comfortable here, and we don't need to eat like we're starving anymore. So yeah, that's the context. That's what led me here. And this is where I am now. So before we dive into perhaps the most exciting part of this video, the physical and mental benefits that I've experienced, of which there are many, I want to first go over my blood work, all right? The hard, black and white, measurable changes in my physiology, okay? And so in the last few years, I've had a good variety of blood tests done, given that I was always in really poor health. And I was like, come on, like, doctor, help me, what is wrong? Of which never really amounted to anything. But subsequently, I have these tests over the last few years. And then I also have a recent blood test that I've gotten done. However, this recent one, technically it wasn't that recent. It's not at the 6-month mark of my carnivore journey. It's at the 4-month mark. It was taken 2 months ago. And I didn't get another one because I'm living in Bali, Indonesia right now. And it costs a bit of money. Like I wanted to get sex hormone binding globulin. I didn't get it because that one test was going to be $150. So I've been a little bit sparing, but I think I've got some really important ones done, and I can see some incredible benefits. So let's dive in. Starting with hemoglobin, hematocrit, and erythrocytes. I'm not going to dive into all the different numbers and stuff here, but it would suffice to say that these have all been below the reference range for many years, and now they're good. So we're starting on a good foot here. Iron, I'm not going to go over because I can bring it up. Like everything is fine in my iron panel, but it's always kind of been fine, perhaps surprisingly. Now, where I noticed an incredible benefit is in my lipid panel. And perhaps this is obvious because I'm actually consuming cholesterol again, but the changes here have been incredible. So now bear in mind that this test I'm comparing it to was done 3 years ago in 2020. It's the only test that I had in the past where I actually measured my cholesterol because, being young, doctors don't really think a young man needs to do that, perhaps, I guess, or it didn't make any sense given the symptoms I had. But we can see in that first test, my cholesterol was like hella low, scary low. So look, if I bring up the numbers, my total cholesterol has gone from 30 milligrams per deciliter to 148. Wow. LDL was sitting around 8, bumped up to 80. And I know that's considered the bad cholesterol, but you do need some of it. Trust me. And as you know, if you know anything about a carnivore diet and you're watching this video, you probably do know that the metrics around cholesterol are not incredibly accurate, as we've seen through a lot of different examples of cardiovascular health, but that's for another video. HDL went from 13 to 52. Ooh, and my triglycerides tripled from 20 up to 65. So basically, and you guys can look at all the different reference ranges. Basically, I went from 3 years ago, and likely the majority of the last 3 years, very low below. Like, these thresholds are interesting because the optimal level doesn't give you a range. It doesn't give you a minimum. It just says below this. But I think it's safe to say that mine were incredibly low. And we can see in a sec how these cholesterol levels were affecting my thyroid, affecting my testosterone, all my hormonal balances, right? So yeah, that brings me to testosterone. So I had this checked twice in the last couple years, both 2 years ago and a year and a half ago. And in both cases, it was low. It was at 304 nanograms per deciliter and then dropped down to 262, right? These are low. I think the reference range says something like 300 to 1,000. Is that right? And I think that's generous. Like, as a man, testosterone is almost your metric of being a man to some degree. It gives you, it deepens your voice. It allows your muscles to adapt and hypertrophy more easily. Like, testosterone is important, okay? And now my level is sitting at 624. And remember, this was 2 months ago as well. So I would extrapolate that to say it's probably well over 700 at this point. It over doubled compared to where it was sitting in the last few years. All right, now I did get a few more tests done, but for fear of boring you to death, I think let's move on to the real meat of the video. So now let's talk about the physical changes I noticed in my body. And right away, right off the bat, I need to say, in the first, I had a little keto flu for a week or two. It took my body a little bit of time to adapt. I was eating a bit more fruit and stuff just before it. I felt, and I say felt, so give me a sec, I felt incredible. I had more energy, vitality than I had in years. I was waking up and I was like, I want to get out of bed, as opposed to many years where I was like, oh, I gotta pry myself up with my arms, you know? So it was incredible. And I say it was because it did dwindle. So for the first 4 months, I think when my body was in that growth stage, I was on top of the moon. I was working out, surfing, running. I used to just drive the scooter and have my dog run on the side, and I was able to finally run with my dog. I have the best dog in the world, guys, and he's just sitting over there sleeping. I just felt incredible. It's kind of cheesy and sounds cliche, but I just felt like I was dead before that, and I finally had my life back. But it did kind of hit a wall. About a month or two ago, I've noticed a decline in my overall energy. And this seems to have correlated with my maxing out my body weight. So I went from about 110 pounds up to 150. That's the transformation you guys saw at the start of this video, or that I can probably bring in right now, 110 to 150. But it seems that once my body hit that maximum weight, my energy started to decline. And my theory around this is not that all of a sudden a carnivore diet isn't optimal. I still believe it is. Sorry to disappoint you guys. But I believe that my body is saying it's time to do another water fast, because I know there's still dysfunction within my system. So speaking to that as well, my digestion in the first 3-4 months was also incredible. And like I said, I had diarrhea for 6 years straight, every single day of my life. The fast helped incredibly. And then moving into a natural, a food selection that is natural for me as a human, my digestion has been really, really good. But the same as the energy, at the 5-6 month mark, it just hasn't been as optimal. And the only thing I can think is that it is because my body is ready to lay down, rest again, and keep fixing the dysfunctions that I I encouraged for those 5 or 6, 7 years that I just lived my life with diarrhea forever. So that's been the main physical benefit. Now, while increased energy has been an incredible blessing, and all these things are obviously intrinsically tied together, I would say the single phenomena that excites me the most of all the changes in my body is my renewed libido, which has absolutely skyrocketed, all right? And I'm not gonna go into incredible detail here. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I guess let's just say for the last few years, things didn't work so well. And now they do. And like, this goes so much further than just sex, right? Like, a man's libido is his life force. It's his energy. It's his will to live in many ways. And if I reflect on those last few years, there were some really dark times where I just had no will to be alive. And now I feel like I finally have some gumption, some tenacity back in my step. You know, I feel like I have an edge. I feel like a man, and it feels good. Now, there have been a bunch more, and I'm just gonna list them off to you. So I used to get these histamine rashes on my arm whenever I ate food. After a meal, I would get these lumps. I don't get those anymore. My hair is growing back thicker. It was getting really thin. I had long hair before, but it was very thin for those last few plant-based years. My gums, this has been a huge factor. If you look at my teeth, I have nice teeth. I don't mind saying it. I've never had braces. I was born and developed good teeth, and I take a lot of pride in them. But when I was eating plants, I ended up, I guess, having a lot of acidity in my diet. And some evenings I'd be brushing my teeth and my gums would have receded so far that I would get into the root, and it was painful. And I was really concerned. I was like, geez, I'm 30 years old and my teeth are already degenerating. I'm happy to say that's completely gone. I can brush my teeth as hard as I want. Not that I do that, but I brush my teeth and my gums have fully come back. My teeth are very healthy. So that's another benefit. What else? I don't wake up a million times to pee in the night. I guess because fruits and vegetables, you know, they allow you to retain so much water that your kidneys at 4 a.m, 2 a.m. are still doing some stuff, forcing you to get up, go pee. I can sleep through the whole night now. And sleep is, you know, it's imperative to our good health. So that's been really nice. Injury healing. I'm finding any injuries in my body are healing now that they have the adequate nourishment to do so. I had this injury in my foot in the fascia from running, and it lasted nearly a year on my kind of plant-based, mostly fruit-based diet. And then within a month of eating carnivore, all better. So that's been good. And the last one I have on my list is I feel hydrated, but not from water, but from fat. Like I heard this term delipidated, like there's dehydrated or perhaps delipidated. So living here in Bali, most nights I have to use AC or else I just don't sleep very well. And AC notoriously dries out the air. And I used to get really dry toes every night. And I couldn't stand it. I don't get that anymore. My toes are adequately moist and it's very nice. There's probably something I'm forgetting on that list, but overall, my overall physical vitality, I mean, you can see physically I got bigger, stronger. I just improved in a whole list of ways, right? That's physical. Now let's talk about the mental improvements. The one that comes to mind first is I would say my just general, cognition has been overall enhanced. I find I'm able to articulate my sentences better, as though my brain is literally just functioning at a greater capacity. And perhaps this is because when you run on ketones, they're more efficient with oxygen use, or it's just how our bodies are meant to run, but I feel smarter. Although the words are failing me now that I feel like I have to represent what I just said. That's been a big change. And also, I I don't know how else to put it besides saying that I feel like more of a man. When I think of masculine traits, I think of being grounded, strong. Like strong is certainly a physical attribute, but grounded, present, clear-minded, level-headed, and especially in social situations among all genders, whatever, I just feel like a better version of myself. We all know when we are behaving in ways that are kind of lesser versions of ourselves. And I feel like I can recognize objectively that the traits I look up to in other people, I find I'm embodying more myself. And it feels really good. No doubt this is obviously due to my testosterone increasing from my cholesterol. All of these things are intertwined, right? Other kind of random things are, I would say I'm more disciplined now, and perhaps as a result of just that being a masculine trait in general. But I think additionally, because when you have to restrict what you're eating, like this, here's the thing. I've eaten pretty much nothing, like for a good 2-3 months, I ate nothing but beef, meat, and fat. But this wasn't from a place of restriction. It was from a place of, I love this. This is incredible. And for all those years I ate plant-based, especially fruit-based, there was always an element of discipline at play because I have to stick to this because I think it's healing my body. I haven't really seen much evidence, but I think it's doing it. I don't know anything else. I'm going to keep doing it. And you utilize this. You only have so much strength that you can apply as discipline. And now that I'm not needing to discipline myself around food, I don't have this crazy food envy anymore. I can apply that on other areas of my life and subsequently find success in more endeavors because I have the tenacity to apply myself properly, as opposed to before where I just had no strength left. Last few things that just popped into my head are, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel as though my sense of hearing and smell have been heightened. Perhaps it's just my overall vitality for life has increased, and so I'm perceiving these senses more acutely. But okay, maybe that's the case. But the other couple things were I haven't gotten sunburnt since I started eating carnivore. Again, this could just be a coincidence, but I'm in the sun for hours every day. I live in the tropics. So I think certainly eating a proper diet has allowed my skin to be more healthy, moisturized. The skin is the largest organ after all. I think for people to blame the sun when it's going to be the biggest representation of poor diet is absolutely foolish. But anyways, those are basically all the physical and mental benefits. And lastly, I want to talk about the spiritual benefits. I would just say this. It feels very good to know that I'm living in alignment with how my ancestors lived. You know, I think the tribes that revolved nomadically around the principle of eating meat and getting the most nutrient-dense food made humans, made me what I am today. And it feels very good to represent that. Although I will say, and I got to say this before people bash me in the comments, I do recognize that ordering meat from the dude in the city and having it shipped to me frozen and I put it in my freezer is very disconnected with what my ancestors actually did to secure their nutrition. However, I guess all I can say is I'm really looking forward to remedying that. You know, whether it's knowing my local farmer in the future or going hunting, which I absolutely want to do when I finally do move somewhere else. I'm really looking forward to that. But in the moment, I'm unable to do that. So there you go. So the last thing before I wrap up this video, I want to cover the most frequently asked question I get, which is, when are you going to eat a vegetable or a piece of fruit or whatever? You know, are you going to do this forever? And my answer, I mean, who can say what I'm going to be thinking a year, 2, 5 years from now? But I would say I don't have any intention to be this super strict carnivore forever. I don't believe in that dogmatic approach. I believe it's optimal to be predominantly eating in this particular manner, but I also accept that food is one of the beautiful flavors of life, quite literally, all right? I'm not gonna go to Italy and not have a piece of pizza, you know? So I'm guessing that for the foreseeable future, I'll probably be quite strict carnivore. But again, I'm not doing it from a place of I need to eat just this way. If you've never tried a plant-free diet for at least a month or two, you wouldn't really understand this, but you're not really restricting yourself because you lose all the cravings for plants because your body says, we don't need that crap. We just want to eat the meat, So it's hard for someone on the outside to really understand this. But I would say, yeah, I'm going to keep eating the meat, probably always be predominantly eating this way. But of course, I think as time goes on, I'll probably indulge here and there. On Christmas, I'll have some wine. When I was a kid growing up, every Saturday we used to have French toast. It's near and dear to my heart. If I was going to have these things, I would make sure this French toast is from sourdough bread. It's been fermented. Eating fruits and vegetables in ways that allow our body to actually absorb the nutrition with less of the negative side effects that come with them, right? So I hope that suffices as an answer. And as far as the near future goes, like I said, my energy and overall the vitality that I experienced the first few months has dwindled a little bit. So I think it's very likely that in the next few weeks, I'll probably do another water fast for, I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks. I'm not going to dive in this video, the insane benefits of water fasting, but there are many. It is perhaps the only real healing modality because the body heals itself. In fact, when you're watching this, I might have already started it. So that's the near future for me. I ate a bunch of beef. My body transformed in so many beautiful ways. And yeah, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you liked my fancy shirt in celebration of 6 months eating a plant-free diet. Yeah. Now go eat some meat.